In 1960, a loaf of bread cost 20 cents. There were about 65 million adult women in America, but only 25 million of them were in the workforce. 17 states still required racial segregation by law. Homosexuality was a crime in 49 states. And yet, in this very different world, a young man named Jay Dinshah decided that this country needed a nationwide vegan society. Today, we'll be talking with Jay's daughter and American Vegan Society heir apparent, Anne Dinshah. Hi, everybody. I am Victoria Moran, and thank you for listening to the Main Street Vegan Podcast. Or maybe you're not listening, maybe you're watching on YouTube on my channel, which is Victoria Moran Official. So thanks for doing that. And if you feel like subscribing, oh my gosh, I would be grateful. And any good words you want to give as a shout out, we'd really be grateful because this is a unique podcast. If you've been listening for a while, you know that. We have as our tagline looking at veganism through the lens of vitality, spirituality, and compassion. And as I was thinking about that, I thought, that is precisely how veganism was presented to me by the late Jay Dinshah, his very much alive and wonderful wife, Freya, the recent recipient of the 2026 Homo Ahimsa Award, and their wonderful daughter, who is carrying the American Vegan Society and the message of veganism into the future. She is Anne Dinshah, and I'm going to give you just a little to-do about her, a lifelong vegan, CEO of the American Vegan Society, and co-author of a posthumous book based on her dad's teachings, and that's called Powerful Vegan Messages. Girl Next Door Anne brings a cheerful and approachable voice to vegan ethics and compassion for animals. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you, Victoria. It's such a pleasure to be here because you're one of my mentors. So
Oh,
I
bless
love your
you.
work.
I mean, we really go back. I mean, the first time I visited the American Vegan Society in Malaga, New Jersey, you were a toddler. And now, here you are, and here we are, and here the movement is. And we're going to talk a lot about how things are, what's happening with you guys going forward, and all the big plans for the American Vegan Society. But before we do that, I want to go back into your really interesting legacy. So, both your father and your mother were lifelong vegetarians, and your paternal grandfather did some really cool stuff in alternative healing back in the day. So let's start with him. Tell us a little bit about the patriarch of patriarchs and what his story was.
So his name was Dinshah P. Gadiali, and he wanted to teach people about vegetarianism, but nobody would come to talks because he was so far ahead of his time. So when people would get sick, they all flocked to his talks because he was teaching color light therapy. And so he was a great orator. And my dad literally learned how to get up on stage at age 2 and started dancing around and talking on stage and just grew up doing that.
Yeah, that's quite something because I think a lot of people don't realize that back in the 1920s and 30s, there was a lot going on around alternative healthcare. There were people discovering what we would today call a whole food plant-based diet or a raw vegan diet. It's just that the media wasn't such that it was able to carry through. And I think historically, when people went through the Depression and World War II and then the great conservatism of the 1950s, a lot of that stuff was kind of pushed down, and then it's been popping up ever since. And I think even today, we see we had the big, year of the vegan in 2019, and now that other kind of way of looking at life is kind of rearing its head again. So people like you and me and many of our listeners are just still at it to get the good word going. So tell us a little bit, Anne, about growing up as you did. You ate differently from other kids. Your parents had different values. What was that like for you as a little girl and as a teenager?
Well, people love to ask me that question. What was it like growing up vegan? First of all, back then I didn't tell people that I was vegan because it was considered very risky. And it's only been more recently that you've heard about the health and the environmental reasons. But we always knew we were doing it for the animals. So it was very easy for me to make the vegan choices, even though vegan products really weren't available readily in the stores. Unless you count the whole produce aisle and the beans and the grains and that kind of stuff, they've always been there. But the processed vegan things that make it so much easier to be vegan, they didn't exist. So I would help my mom in the kitchen. We would make hummus, soy milk, tofu, from soybeans. And it took a lot of effort to do. Um, I like to say if my parents were entrepreneurs in the business world instead of social entrepreneurs, then we would have been billionaires because we would have put all these things on the market. But instead, my mom wrote the first vegan cookbook in the country, The Vegan Kitchen. And so it's a joy to have grown up being surrounded with, like, I've always known how to cook. Like, I don't remember learning, it just happened.
Yeah.
But it also gives me a real empathy for the average American person because they're just eating what their parents put on the table. They really haven't had to think about it much. We'd like them to think about it, but when they're ready for the information, American Vegan Society's been there for them and will continue to be there for them to just help them when it's time to question what you thought you knew.
Well, it was certainly there for me. I doubt seriously that I would be vegan today. I might not even be alive today because even though, like you, I did this for the animals, I was also oftentimes quite obese, sometimes just quite overweight. But we're talking in my early 20s. I was pre-diabetic, and I believe that had I not run into your parents and had they not stood by me and believed in me. And one of the things I always like to talk about is they never gave up on me. And I think sometimes, we're trying to help people be vegan and they act like they're kind of interested and they slip and slide and we're just like, ooh. Your parents were never like that with me. I was slipping and sliding, and they always treated me like a vegan. They always saw me as what I could be, even when I wasn't living up to that. And I believe, if it wasn't for them, I might not even be here talking to you today. So they're very, very important in my life, and so is the American Vegan Society. And I always say, if you are vegan and you are American or North American, you need to be a member of the American Vegan Society. This is your society. This is your organization. It's there for you. If it hadn't been there before you were vegan and maybe before you were born, things would not be the way they are today. So I am a great fan and a great supporter of you guys and everything you do. So tell us a little bit, Anne, about the kind of legacy, the whole picture. So you grew up in the kitchen with your mom, and now you have kids. And are they in the kitchen? I mean, other boys, maybe that's a little bit different, but the great chefs are men. So tell us about going forward.
Oh, absolutely. My parents taught me how to cook, and especially my mom did. And so I, just think that's normal to have kids in the kitchen from a young age. In fact, I had the wonderful pleasure to write a kids cookbook with my mom. It's called Apples, Bean Dip, and Carrot Cake. Kids, teach yourself to cook. And so kids can literally just read their way through the book and teach themselves with a little bit of adult supervision, but they can decide what they want to make. And the book teaches them basic stuff like how to wash your vegetables. Um, and to remember to turn off the stove, things that adults need to learn as well sometimes. So, yeah, there's not that many people that really have had a chance to write a book with their parents. And I've gotten a chance to write a book with my mom and a book with my dad. And so I know that part's unique. But I don't really think of myself as being an author. I think of that as just being quality time that I got to spend with my parents.
That's very
And
cool.
yeah, and it's really prepared me for what I'm doing now. And so, as the CEO of American Vegan Society, I'm just making myself available to whatever America needs now.
Well, and let me just get a plug in also for Apple's Bean Dip and Carrot Cake. This is a kid's cookbook. These are really good recipes and they're simple. And if you're not somebody who's real comfortable in the kitchen, then start with that. I remember when I was in college and some of the courses that were challenging, I remember anatomy and physiology was kind of challenging. I went to the library and I got kids' books and I got young adults' books. And then I'd get the basics to move on to do what I was supposed to be doing. And that cookbook, if you are somebody who just is like, I don't know, I don't cook, I put the lean cuisine in the oven, just try it. Get yourself a copy of that book, get started, and you'll get more comfortable and you'll eat better. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about your dad and the lessons that you got from him that still guide you on life day to day.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. Life can be overwhelming sometimes. And there's one quote from him that really makes me feel very grounded. And he says, I can only do what I can do, but I can do it every day. And that
Mhm.
was really how he lived his life. So being realistic about what my strengths are, I was very reluctant to come into this role being CEO of American Vegan Society. When you grow up having people your whole life say, "Oh, you're going to wind up leading American Vegan Society and being the next president of it." And well, so I guess someone else be president, but I'm still doing the day-to-day work. Um, just like you've got to think he had his skill sets and I've got mine. And everybody has something amazing that they do. Some of us are looking for it. Some of us already know what it is. We also have some things that we're not that great at, and that's fine. That's being human. That's having the balance in who you are. So realizing that I don't have to be my parents. I can be decent speaking without being an amazing orator. But telling my own story, living my own life. And so I took many, many years away from American Vegan Society. Like I left for a while because I had to find myself. Who am I really? And so I did that through rowing. I rowed in college. That's where I learned at the University of Notre Dame. And then I did a life as a professional rowing coach, going from college to college, teaching young people how to row and really teaching them about life and how to have balance in their life, not just in the boat. And so when it's time to come back and, do the legacy thing, that's the unique thing that I bring is the teamwork skills that I bring from rowing. So my gift is to find people who are wonderful at doing vegan work and bring out the best in them. And they do things that I'm not capable of doing, and they do it better than I can. So it's just being a good coach, and that's really what my role is now.
Ah, so for people who weren't able to know your dad, tell us what he was like after hours, when he wasn't on stage, when he wasn't putting out a magazine or writing a book. I remember he was funny. He was musical. I mean,
Mhm.
he was an all-around guy. And I think it kind of surprised me because I was very young when I met him. I was 20 years old. And so when you meet a role model at that age, you just assume that all they're doing all the time is role modeling. And they tell a joke and it's like, what? You can do that? So tell us about the After Hours Jay Dinshah.
Yeah, he was actually a really funny guy, and he was an amazing artist. We've got some paintings here at our headquarters that are I remember being 8 years old watching him paint a painting and then telling me the magic is you turn on this dimming switch and it's you can make it like a sunrise and a sunset over the ocean. And he just had this vision, and he applied that to the vegan stuff too. He had a vision of how the world could be, and he tried to paint that picture for all of us. But after hours, he loved to go boating. So when I did finally get him to take a little tiny vacation, he would come out and drive the motorboat for the rowing team. Um, the painting is what really stuck with me that I love, because it's something that I do now. Not that we had a lot of time to paint together, but there is one time that he came and visited me, and we did actually paint a painting together. And it's two wolves by a river in the moonlight. And I'll always cherish doing that with him.
Wow.
Yeah, he was incredibly funny. Like when someone tells you on the spot, "Oh, be funny. Tell me something," he said. Well, I can't remember, but it comes up in everyday life. How funny he was. Um, we've got some clips of him speaking, and one of them is he dragged me on stage. Not really dragged, but like, I wasn't as outgoing as he was. And there's a few minutes of him doing impersonations of famous people. So that's on the Powerful Vegan Messages YouTube channel. People loved it. They requested it year after year at conferences. And even though he was still kind of on because he was putting on the conference, you got to see this other side of him where he wasn't trying to convince you to be vegan. He was just making you laugh, and people got it.
Yeah. Aw.
Yeah.
So I recall visiting American Vegan Society, which is and was also your home, that when your dad was around, things were different than when you visited another American home. So was a great devotee of Dr. Albert Schweitzer. I know Dr. Schweitzer wrote him a personal letter talking about how he was vegetarian and he was as vegan as he could be under the circumstances of being a medical missionary in sub-Saharan Africa. And your dad also was a great follower of Mahatma Gandhi, and he wanted to live in a way that was Gandhian. And part of that was this voluntary simplicity. So I have to say, there was some simple things going on when I would visit there that were just hard for me to get used to. We were supposed to very much conserve water and do more of an Indian way instead of maybe taking a shower, just put the water in the cup and, do this. And, the truth is, it works. It's just, we get so used culturally to doing things the way they do them. So tell us what it was like growing up around that. And do you still practice some voluntary simplicity today?
Well, we do have normal showers available, first of all. But we do also have a bathtub to do the very simple, economical bucket bath. And people can now come and experience American Vegan Society for themselves. We're reopening our educational resort this fall.
Uh-huh.
And so, small groups, 2 to 10 people, and we're going to tailor the experience to what people need. If they want to spend more time learning in the kitchen, or more time talking about ethics, or more time reading a book, under a tree, swinging on the swing, or playing tennis, or whatever it is, we can, try to help them have a really fun, normal vegan experience for a while they're with us. And yeah, the voluntary simplicity. I built my own cabin. So I live in New York, but it's funny because everybody thinks I'm like Victoria's neighbor. I live about 8 hour drive away. You can see Erie from where I am. I've got 16 acres that I can hike around on and have a good time. And so I don't have a house. I have a vacation cabin. And so that's where I like to live when I'm not at the headquarters. And so then I get the right balance of being able to keep to myself versus, having to be the extrovert that people need me to be.
Yeah, you're very fortunate that you have that, and it's a great refresher. So, since we talked about the geography of where you live when you're not wearing your CEO hat, let's talk a little bit about the geography of American Vegan Society. Malaga, New Jersey is near Vineland, which is near Philadelphia. So I know you have been running the American Vegan Center in Philadelphia for the past, is it 4 years? And now that's going to be transferring 5 years. Okay, that's going to be moving to Malaga. So tell us what that is and what people can experience when they come to Malaga and see that part of things.
hmm Well, we thought we could reach more people being in a big city, but we realized that we're pretty effective working from Malaga, New Jersey, because people make a point of coming to our events. And so we want to do more of that. And we own the buildings here in Malaga instead of paying rent in Philadelphia. So we're turning it into a very positive thing. We're going to build on our experience in Philadelphia by doing more collaborations and partnerships in the city of Philadelphia with other organizations and using their spaces. And meanwhile, we're going to focus on using our headquarters more and providing the unique country atmosphere that's only half an hour outside of Philadelphia. We're still in the greater Philadelphia area. And so we're embracing what we do well and having fun doing it. And we're looking forward to having people come visit us more and doing a lot more events here in New Jersey. That's an easy driving distance from Philadelphia.
Yeah. So what else is going on? Just tell us about the plans and the forward vision of the AVS.
Well, I'm always cautious to not promise too much. So just know there's a lot more vision going on. That, I only want to promise the things that we really can do and make happen. But I'm currently working on the next issue of the magazine, and I'm not going to reveal. Not going to reveal the content of that, but let's just say it's going to be one of our best issues yet. Of course, I told you about the American Vegan Educational Resort where people can come and stay for like 3 or 4 days at a time, which is on our website, americanvegan.org. But we're opening up, for just small events as well, like events for an hour or two here and there. So our kitchen that's just recently got renovated is the Landmark Vegan Kitchen. It's the location where Freya wrote many of the recipes of the vegan kitchen. Um, and so that's a very special place. So you get to actually come and cook, do cooking demos or
Mhm.
workshops and be hands-on in this very historic kitchen that we're really excited. So that's going to be opening up at the beginning of October. And so we're looking forward to, doing a lot of the different programs, both in person and online. So by having a good base here, we can share it with people nationally. They just have to go to our website, americanvegan.org, or they can follow us on social media. It's American Vegan Society or American Vegans with an S at the
Mhm.
end, if you're on Instagram. And we'll be posting all of our events there. So a lot of discussions, a lot of exercising, a lot of making things fun. Like who wouldn't want to go to a party where you learn how to cook something that's easy and delicious, and you learn how to do some really fun exercises and laugh at the same time? Like that sounds like a great time to me.
Right.
I do
And
some
to
of those
hang
kind of.
out with other vegans and other veg curious people,
Mhm.
because that seems to be so, so important to folks. So, Anne, let's talk a little bit about veganism, about this thing that we share, this thing that we believe in. There's a lot of food, as you talked about. You can get soy milk in the grocery stores and almond and coconut and hemp and flax and all the rest. All that, so new, so helpful. People know what it is, but back before people knew what it was, I found at least in raising my daughter vegan, you didn't get as much flack because people didn't know what you were doing and they just thought it was weird and they kind of wanted to leave you alone. But nowadays, particularly online, there are just a lot of people saying, "Bah, don't do this. This is terrible. This is unhealthy. This is wrong. You are crazy." So, how do you maintain your equilibrium in the present climate?
Well, first of all, it's hilarious because people always hear what they want to hear. So, like you said, that I'm not, or that I'm getting all this flack, and I heard flax, like, oh yeah, flax is healthy to eat. Okay, that's how people's brains work. And so when you realize that, you just got to roll with it and have fun with it. And so, first of all, it's not their business what I'm eating, in if that's my personal life. If I'm got my work mood, then fine, they can ask me all the questions they want, and I'll be patient and understanding. But it comes down to just being yourself. And so for me, I'm healthy, I'm athletic, I am kind to everyone that I meet. I see the good in people, and that shines through. And I know it shines through because people tell me that it shines through. I'm not out there with a picket sign, I'm not out there with a bullhorn telling people what they have to eat. Um, I'm helping them connect the compassion that they already have to
Mm.
where they would like to be and answering their questions. And what really helps me the most, like you were saying, what about if all these people are attacking you? The thing that always helps me when people attack is that I've realized through experience that those are the people who are most likely to go vegan. They just don't realize it because their conscience is pricked. They're thinking about it. So they're not just ignoring you completely, they're thinking about what you're doing, and it somehow bothers them that they're afraid they may have to change something. And that's why they're acting out. So I treat
Mm.
them with extra compassion and invite them over to dinner if I can.
Yeah, well, and that's always a great way to get people, especially if you're somebody confident enough in the kitchen to write a cookbook. But yeah,
Well,
and the truth is, we really only need to know how to cook one or two really good things to convince people.
Yeah, if you can cook a main dish and a dessert, like that's all you need. You
Yeah,
just need a go-to thing, and then you can make different versions of it, make it look slightly different if someone comes up
yeah.
another time, or
So
go,
true.
oh, well, I knew you liked it, so I made it again. That's all you need.
So when I first met your parents back in 1970, I assumed that by the time we got to 2026, I mean, maybe we wouldn't have a fully vegan world, but maybe we'd be 50%. Well, we're still kind of 2 to 3%. Although there are things out there, as we talked about, the various food products and even the word. And I find it so interesting. Have you noticed this too, Anne? That the word vegan, if one is describing oneself, isn't always a great word to use because people are like, oh, vegan, and you're whatever they think. You're elitist, you're extreme, you think you're better than everybody else. But if you use the word vegan to describe a body care product, I just noticed, I don't know if it's Garnier or it was one of the big companies that advertises on television. They now have a product and they are saying it's vegan. Now, they didn't do that just willy-nilly. They did some kind of demographic research and determined that they would sell more stuff by using that word than not using the word. So, where are we in the world? And how do you see where we are now from where maybe your dad's vision was when he was with us?
Well, I'm very realistic about it. I'm very aware that when my dad went vegan, there were 8 billion land animals being killed for food worldwide every year. And now it's 10 times as bad with 80 billion and the countless fishes. And so that's a traumatic number. And I'm not a numbers girl. So that's like the only number I need to know is that it's 10 times worse. And I could be like really sad about it, or I could remember that we've made such great strides. I could be positive. I could put on my eternal optimist hat. And that's why we have a new tagline at American Vegan Society. It's celebrating vegan since 1960, or
Ooh,
celebrating veganism since
oh, I
1960, however you
like
want to put
that.
it. Because you need reasons to celebrate. You need to be reminded. If you're like down about how many animals are being killed and you're angry at everybody about it, there's nobody who's going to gravitate towards you and say, oh, I want to be like you. Let me try some of that anger. That tastes good. Um, yeah, so we
Yeah.
have to keep in mind what people really want. What attracts them. They want delicious food. They want to look healthy and feel healthy. And, there's not too many people who go, oh, I'd rather have a heart attack, like it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, so, just keeping a positive attitude about it. Yeah, there's all these reasons to be negative about what's happening. But embrace all the progress. Embrace that, like, there was a time that my dad had to do everything that needed to be done. And now we don't have to put on conferences because there's veg fests everywhere. We have wonderful people like Victoria doing a podcast. So when people say, Anne, you should do a podcast, I can say, no, Victoria already does one and she does it so well. So check that off my list. One less thing I have to do to help the world.
It
So,
is interesting that when people become vegan, very often they become very active vegans. They get very enthused. And I think that's a part of human nature that really works in our favor. So, as I've listened to you today, I hear you talking about what I call attraction activism. And that's really my thing right now. I kind of came up with the concept about 10 years ago, but I'm working with it so much. I spoke about it this year at Vegan Summerfest. And I wonder if maybe this comes from your dad, because the fact that you're talking about it and I'm talking about it, and he was the big influence, I mean, certainly for you as your father, but for me as a vegan, that we can give people all the facts and figures, and that's great. We have great facts and figures, and we have wonderful people out there like Dr. Michael Greger who can just, I mean, so convincing about interpreting the science. And then we have other wonderful people with the animal issues and those numbers that you cited, those tragic, awful numbers, but also the successes that are coming in small ways. We're making a lot of progress with animal experimentation being phased out. So some good things are happening. And yet, at the end of the day, what seems to get people is who we are. It's like one to one. I knew a vegan and I didn't like them, or I knew a vegan and I loved them. What's going to carry this message forward more? It's being a lovable vegan.
hmm yeah, I love your phrase, especially when you put it together and call it attractivism. Like that, that's
Yeah.
brilliant because it's exactly what we need. We need people, we need the people who are not vegan yet to continue being curious and learn about it. And that takes the most courage. And so those are
Mhm.
the people that I have the most respect for, is the people who are learning. But then we need the vegans to be themselves and to not be afraid to find ways to attract people to talk to them. So here's an example. I am not good at wearing the word vegan across my chest. Like, I
Mhm.
don't want somebody to see that and then think I'm going to tell them you have to be vegan. Um, I would rather be myself. And I've had lots of people come up to me and be like, you look great. What do you do? And they find out how old I am and they're like, no way. You know, I've been blessed to enjoy a lot of athleticism. I'm not a gifted athlete at all, but I take part in a lot of athletics, and I'm not totally into eating the most healthy vegan diet. I try to relate to people and eat, vegan foods that for the most part are healthy, but if I eat some things that are like transition foods that are a little more processed once in a while, as long as I'm helping somebody else move along on their path, I don't worry about it too much.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that's kind of what makes being me fun is
Yeah.
is just to like roll with the things and
Mm.
not stress about it. And people will come and talk to me because they don't know that I'm vegan, and it's like, what? Or people have a conversation with me, and sometimes people have actually said, there's this thing called vegan, you might want to try it. And that's what really cracks me up when people don't know who I am. I'm
Oh,
like,
I love
okay.
that. I love that. It's so funny. There seem like there are two kinds of people in the world, and some want to lead with their reputation. Like, hello, put the hand out to shake it. I'm Anne Dinshah, and I'm the daughter of the founders of the American Vegan Society, and I've been vegan my whole life. Or, hi, I'm Anne. Who are you? And that seems
Well, I even have a better way than that. We just made a new shirt that has no words on it at all. And it's a fundraiser for American Vegan Society, so it does cost a little bit more, but it has representatives of the 80 billion animals on it. And it has like they're like all placed like going up like this. You can't really see it on me, but anyway, because I'm not wearing it. But it's like going from 8 to 80 billion. And so all their smiling, happy faces, and they're mostly animals from sanctuaries. They're all rescue animals. And they're reminding you of
oh.
it. And the shirt is just plastered with it. And then the other shoulder has the water for the fishes on it. And because I wanted to make something that I would actually wear in public, something that looks different. Like you don't see someone wearing a lot of animals on their shirt. And the whole shirt is just covered with water and animals.
Yeah.
And so we've had a lot of people get the shirt. You're talking about at Vegan Summerfest. Yeah, we had a lot of people get the shirt. And now they're sending me pictures of where they have worn the shirt, like farmers market or going running on a trail. And they're like, you wouldn't believe how many people come up and say, wow, that's a really cool shirt. And then I have an opportunity to talk with them about veganism. And so that really makes my heart sing because some of these people are people who would never wear a shirt that says vegan. You know, some of us are just a little more quiet about it, but they're out there representing now, and we found a new way to do it.
And I've seen this shirt that you're talking about. It's a great shirt. So that's available from the American Vegan Society, americanvegan.org. And of course, we will put all of the URLs and information in the chat at the show notes at mainstreetvegan.com. Also, just want to give a shout out for Main Street Vegan, the Main Street Vegan Academy 39th cohort will be happening this fall, October and November. We do that via Zoom, but it is not an online class. It is live and interactive. You get to know the fabulous faculty members, the wonderful presenters. You get to know your classmates. You have the opportunity for follow up afterwards with monthly alumni gatherings and some live get togethers in different parts of the country. So do take a look if you are interested in upping your game and becoming a certified vegan lifestyle coach and educator. Check out the program at mainstreetvegan.com. And in the show notes, which you'll also find there, you'll find out more about Anne, her books, her wonderful work, and of course, the American Vegan Society, American Vegan Magazine, which you can still get on paper. There is just something about turning pages. There's something about the quality of photographs. There is just something about paper that is so magical. And I understand that I come from the paper generation, but even though you've got a great website, all kinds of online stuff, that's cool too. But to get that American Vegan magazine, it means a lot. And I think it ties me back to Jay as well. You know, the magazine used to have a different name, Ahimsa, and you've moved forward, American Vegan, much more recognizable. Yeah, let's see who's on the cover of this issue that you're showing us.
This issue, we were featuring LEAP. So this girl is in the LEAP program. LEAP stands for Leaders for Ethics, Animals, and the Planet. And
Ah,
so they work at sanctuaries. It's kind of like a vegan version of 4-H, where they're teaching
mhm.
about animal care, and um,
Ah,
it's just a wonderful program that they have. So check them out, leapforanimals.org.
wonderful.
Yeah,
And
and yeah, we get so many people who love the print magazine. We so often think, maybe we should just do a PDF version. We do a PDF also,
mhm.
but the people who read American Vegan Magazine, it only comes out twice a year, but so many of them are like, oh no, I feel like it comes out 4 times a year because I just keep reading it over and over again. I'll find one sitting around and I'll read it again. And so I really think hardly anyone reads it just once. They read it twice at least from what
Yeah,
the feedback is they give me. And then when they're done with it, they hand it to somebody else. And it's really hard to ignore something in print. If it's
mhm.
online, you just hit delete, you never even open up the document. But in print, even if you're leaving it at your doctor's office or at the library, even if you don't necessarily have a friend that you feel comfortable giving it to, but most people that I know do have friends that that they give it to. And, that just helps everybody enjoy it more.
It does indeed. So before I let you go, Anne, I know you grew up vegan, you're raising vegan kids, and this is something that scares so many people. And frankly, if it hadn't been for your mom, I would have been afraid when my daughter was born because so much of the information was, you be vegan if you want to. That's your decision. But do not push your extremism onto an innocent child. Well, what we know now is that done properly, if kids are raised in this extreme way, they end up with things like boys have less prostate cancer when they grow up. And it's great to go vegan as an adult, but in that particular case with the prostate cancer, so much more credit you get from being a vegan kid rather than just changing at some point in adulthood. So just talk to us a little bit to parents or would-be parents, grandparents. How is it? How is it for kids? What do you need to watch out for? What do you need to do?
Yeah, well, I think, it depends on the age of the kids. The younger kids aren't going to care about the health and environment. Once they get to be teenagers, they might start to understand a little bit more about the environment. Maybe if they're very serious in sports, they might care about the health aspects. But every kid has this compassion for animals, and it's turned off when they're forced to eat animals. Um, so if you're a vegan parent and you're trying to help them, then just help them connect with animals. Even if you don't have animals in your own home, you can do a little trip to go to a sanctuary, or you can help them connect with the neighbor's dog and, just talk about like, that animal has feelings and help them connect with it. And then don't stress if they slip up. So as soon as they're out of your door, like I don't care if you say, "Oh, I let my kid have their own choices when they were 12." No, the first time you left your kid with somebody else, they had their own choices. The first time they went to school and everybody else was eating the regular stuff, they had their own choices. They could barter away their vegan lunch and get whatever junk somebody else was eating if they wanted to. So even if they eat a donut at school or somebody had a birthday and they eat a piece of birthday cake, don't stress about it. Like, big deal. You know what that birthday cake tasted like. It tasted like white flour and sugar and grease. And you can make something even better at home. And you can take that opportunity to talk with them and cook with them and reinforce the good things and remind them, it's not always easy to live your values. And I love you anyway. And none of us are perfect, let alone expecting a kid to be perfect. Like I'm only 99% vegan. That is the best that I can do because I live in an imperfect world. And if, once in a while there's something that whether I accidentally eat it or somebody's like, this is the best lasagna ever. Okay, well, I think mine could be better, but if someone insists, will I take a bite of it? Yeah, just so that I can know, what is it that tastes so amazing that they think they can't give up. I'll turn around and make an even better lasagna that's going to help hundreds of people go vegan. So it's about what my dad taught. He taught dynamic harmlessness, which is quite a big
Mhm.
mouthful, but is to do the least harm while you're doing the most good. And if you keep that in mind, and that's a simple concept that you can apply to everything in life, and you can teach your kids that, then they can go forward and be confident vegans.
I can't think of a better closing line than that. Thank you, Anne. And I just want to say thank you to your grandfather and your mom and your dad for just bringing this message and this energy. And now it's in your hands largely. I know your mom is still there doing great stuff too, although officially retired. But everybody, get to know this woman, get to know this organization, become a part of it. If you're vegan, the American Vegan Society is yours too. So have a look, americanvegan.org, see what you can learn, and see if you're inspired to become a part of it. I think you will be. And in the meantime, let us all get out there and make Main Street vegan.